All right, good afternoon, good people. We're about to get number 230, not number, but our 230 session started. Our culturalist for equity and diversity. Um, Thank you to the people joining in the virtual webinar and the audience there. If you have any questions, please email those questions to info@artsbr.org, just so we can send them to the appropriate person and get your response as soon as possible. At this time, we'd like to begin with an introduction and an acknowledgement.
Good afternoon. Can y'all hear me?
No, you're not doing anything wrong.
Oh, okay. Oh, good afternoon. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Tara Bennett with the Hammond Regional Arts Center. The Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge aspires to advance diversity and equity in every aspect of our work. We celebrate our region's diversity and promote the role of the arts to connect people. To that end, we would like to take this moment to acknowledge the inclusive history of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as part of our responsibility to honor and affirm Indigenous peoples' culture, history, and experiences. We recognize the communities native to this region, including the Chitamacha tribe of Louisiana, Choctaw Nation, and others whose memories may have been erased by violence, displacement, migration, and settlement. We are dedicated to expanding awareness of, increasing access to, and growing participation in the arts across diverse populations throughout our community. The Arts Council of Greater Baton Rouge, along with the Louisiana Division of the Arts, continues to listen and learn to better understand the people within our community and the environment it inhabits. Sam Bowler is a writer, sculptor, and technologist based in New Orleans. He's the founder of Culturalist, a resource network for cultural communities. This afternoon, he's going to tell us about how this directory and network can connect Louisiana's 9 cultural regions. Join me in welcoming Sam Bowler.
Hi, everyone. How we doing? This is going to be a little, I guess, this is the Zoom mic. Got you. Okay. Yeah, it's like, okay. So since we got a small group, I'd love if everyone could just like introduce themselves and say, sort of, are you an artist or an organization? You know, why you chose this session. Thank you for choosing this session, by the way. So you want to start? No need. No need. We all see each other. How you doing? Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thank you. We're we're, yeah. We need you to stand up actually and do 10 jumping jacks. No, I'm kidding. Hey, Nicole. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Sometimes you need a break from kids. Thanks, Lou. Okay, great. Yep. Bingo. Thanks, Nicole. Cool. I'm glad it resonated with you. Awesome. Kelsey? Gotcha. Perfect. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Luke. What kind of art do you do? Writer. Amazing. Amazing. Thanks, Luke. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thanks. We're just saying our names and what we do. Every month. Good for you. That's awesome. Okay. Thanks, Miss Darlene. I'm Sam. You have a question, Nicole? Oh. I'm Sam, and I'm happy to be with y'all. So today, I just want to have it be a conversation because a lot of what we do is figure out what's needed in the arts and culture space and how we can specifically build shared digital tools to serve the needs of cultural communities. And cultural communities are so complex. There's artists, there's arts organizations, there's tourists, there's sort of pseudo government organizations, there's locals. They're so complex, and the cultural economies are so valuable, but it's hard to kind of navigate them, and often they're not very transparent. And as a result of not being very transparent, they can be not equitable. So culturalists sort of began when I moved to New Orleans in 2010. I'm a sculptor, and I had come from a studio where we shared equipment, and sculpture equipment can be very expensive. So I was looking for other sculptors to connect with, and it was hard. It took a long time to break into that community and find the people. So lots of Googling of sculptors New Orleans, shared equipment New Orleans, and those sort of turned up results for a few galleries on a certain gallery street. Those artists were very, very established and had since moved out of New Orleans. So it was just hard to sort of understand who the artists were just for sculpture. And then it took me 3 to 4 months to figure that out and map that out just for myself. And then trying to think about how do I collaborate with poets or how do I collaborate with visual artists. Each would require that much more effort. So that was the first light bulb of why is it so hard to find artists in cities when they make cities so valuable and they also want to be found? If they want to be found, then they're trying to be found in different ways. Obviously, some artists are just doing this for their own emotional well-being, myself included, but for the most part, artists want to be found. So that was the first light bulb. The second light bulb was I taught 7th grade writing for several years. And art, as we all know in this room, it just creates so much space internally, to process things. There's a whole other way to sort of know yourself through the making of art, through the writing, through whatever you acting or spoken word or painting. So the second light bulb was we just need more access. We need a pathway where a seventh grader can be in their city and they can say, show me all the poets in my city. And that's an easy search. So they can see examples of who's up the pipeline. And then the third was just learning the numbers. The third light bulb was learning the numbers. So I'd love to hear if you guys have numbers for your specific places. But in New Orleans, there are 18 million tourists that come every year. And those 18 million tourists spend roughly $8 billion a year, which is astounding. And that $8 billion is spent on hotels, on restaurants, but 15% is spent on entertainment. So that's, shows, that's ghost tours, things like that. So that's 15% of 8 billion is roughly like 1.2, 1.3 billion dollars. But the average income for artists and musicians in New Orleans is just shy of 20K. So it makes the numbers make no sense. So if we're talking about equity of who's making the culture, the people who make the culture aren't getting paid equitably from all that tourism revenue. So that was the final, this doesn't make any sense. How can we build something to sort of plug into that $8 billion to funnel it back into the arts community? We're in the very first step of this multiple step process to solve that problem. And that's what Culturalist is right now. So I'm going to talk you through where we are right now, and then show you the platform and talk about where we're going. And then would love sort of feedback and questions. And because again, I want this to be a conversation. So here's a photo of New Orleans. This is our new logo. Did a rebrand in the past couple of weeks. So first time demoing the new logo. Hope you like it. Thanks. Okay, so second slide. How am I doing on the mic, Luke? Good? Okay. So what is Culturalist? The idea, as I've mentioned with these light bulbs, was it's hard to find artists. So if we want to solve for the economic outcomes for artists, how can we make it easier to find them? So the question then becomes, okay, how do we centralize information? So Culturalist is a shared network, because what happens is arts councils and arts organizations have the mission of how do we help artists in our cities? And they come up with the same idea. We need some way to centralize the information, so they build their own artist directories. Have you guys ever seen like a arts council has their own directory on a website? That's a WordPress website probably. And they spend lots of money doing that. It's sometimes 15K, sometimes 30K, 40K, whatever it might be, to build this website to help get artists centralized for that one city. And then in 2 years, 3 years, their website becomes out of date, and then they have to reinvest in it. And that happens so that the web is littered with these individual artist directories that took a ton of resources to build up. And then the artists themselves are very aware of how they're being presented. And so they don't necessarily love the profiles on these websites, or they can't really share the URL because it's like 8 different slashes and some bunch of numbers. So they can't really share it. So these directories sort of become outdated very quickly. Not to mention, what I mentioned earlier is that cultural communities are so complex, but there's really nothing designed specifically to help map them and to help sort of understand them. Instagram is used all the time to sort of connect with people. Facebook is used the same way. Eventbrite is used for events. But in terms of just focusing on a local arts and culture scene, there isn't a tool that we know of yet that is designed specifically to help solve the problem of finding artists and connecting with them. So why our whole thing is, why should everyone build it on their own? Let's just build some shared system that's not profit motivated, and then everyone can plug into it and pay an annual fee that is just about sustainability. We're not trying to make a bunch of money. We're just trying to build a shared, useful resource so that information is centralized, and therefore there's more equity in the access to information. That makes sense? So why do we need this? One, it improves cultural discovery. You guys, I'm sure have used Craigslist before. It's a little clunky and strange. Have y'all used Craigslist? Aware of it? You haven't? I love Craigslist too. It's like my favorite website on the web. It's so simple. I know. So Craigslist allows you to find a couch or a car, any city you go to, right? It should be the same thing for artists and arts organizations. So you should be able to pop into a city, show me all the poets, show me all the painters. So that's our whole proposition, is let's just build this shared thing that has a universal interface. So you're not trying to find some individual directory that's buried behind 8 different links on an arts council website. Make it so you know how to find the culture and the people who make the culture in every place you go to. So it improves cultural discovery. Asset mapping. There's all this conversation now in the cultural space about asset mapping. What does a city have? How many museums? How many studios, etc. Those projects, like I mentioned with the artist directory, they're expensive and then hard to manage. So we can help with that. As we saw with COVID, emergencies happen. Hurricanes happen all the time down here. And there isn't a place that artists can go for centralized information on what sort of relief is happening. So we want to do all these various things. The final thing is, we think this should exist because tourism is extractive right now. And we want to make it so that some of that $8 billion can get back to the actual people who are making the culture. So sustainable tourism is a big goal of ours. And we want to keep the cost low. So I think tech should be an equalizing resource for everybody, but it's expensive to build, or you're opting into somebody's idea of what tech should look like, and they're stealing your attention through Instagram. You know, they want your attention to sell you stuff. And that itself is problematic. So we want to imagine a future where there's just it's a shared resource that folks can use. At any point, just interrupt me. All right, so challenges we're seeking to address. One is, I've already mentioned this a couple times, hard to find artists. 2, it's hard for artists to find opportunities. So I'm sure the artists in the room have felt that before. If you're trying to find a grant or relief aid or residency, what is y'all's process right now? I'm asking. I know that wasn't clear. I'm asking. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep. Thank you. Anybody else want to share? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think also maybe rare, you know, the work you're doing to like research, understand, and connect is amazing, but also I think something that not everyone has the energy or ability to necessarily do. Yeah. Anybody else want to share how you find opportunities and stuff? But so basically that is kind of how artists do it, is like based on how I do it, you know, is like you're searching for opportunities, you're trying to find, you belong to 10 different listservs, you're then scrolling through and figuring out, okay, does this qualify for sculptors? No, you know, this is only for people in this zip code, is only, you know, so it's a laborious process and it's outdated. So why can't it be simpler where an artist can just automatically receive an email every month with customized opportunities for them? That should exist and be free. So that's the other challenge we're trying to solve. Third is it's expensive to build technology. Pretty straightforward there. Same thing. It's expensive to build cultural asset mapping tools. We don't really know what is going on in a cultural ecosystem, and therefore we don't know what it needs. So it's hard to, like, from an arts council perspective or a state government perspective or a museum perspective, what's happening in the city and what is actually needed. So what gaps do we need? Do we need some more mental health resources for artists? The answer is always yes to that question. But like, what does this city specifically need? And we have a hard time analyzing that because we don't know. We don't have any data. And then finally, there's no emergency infrastructure in place. Like a hurricane comes through, COVID comes through, we don't have a centralized place where information is disseminated. In New Orleans specifically, 68 organizations came together to create a network in March 2020 that just had a bunch of Zooms. It's called the Creative Response Network, but it was basically just created ad hoc to help solve the problem of like what's happening. And that sort of revealed the fact that nobody knew what to do. Everyone was sharing emails, et cetera. So this is what we're trying to solve. And I'm now going to walk through, and I'm going to get to the demo quickly because I think that'll be more fruitful for the conversation. But all right, so I'm going to break this down by what each user on the platform gets. Okay. First, artists get a free SEO optimized profile with a unique shareable URL. So SEO means search engine optimization. So I'll show you what that looks like. But basically, every word in your bio becomes searchable, and you become it's a new web page for you that will show up on search results. It's all free. Yep. You get a full gallery of work as part of your portfolio. So video, music, audio, PDF, or building integrations with Spotify. You can link your direct payment applications. So Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. We take none of that. You just link it there. You can list all your stuff, Patreon. And then you can sign up for automatic notifications for opportunities. And you can say, I'd like to receive grants or residencies. There's like, I think 10 or 11 different types of opportunities. And you can just sign up automatically to receive those. Yeah, Kelsey. So it's up to the artist. You know, they can use it as, we've seen some artists use it as their main portfolio page, where it's sort of, they update it every month. Other artists are changing their work out constantly, and they use it sort of as a website, but it's really up to the artist how they want to use it. Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yep. Any questions on this? All right, so I'm going to run through these again, like I said, because I think the demo will be more impactful. So arts organizations have a similar problem. In, Central Louisiana, for example, how many arts organizations are there? It's hard to answer that question. Just the same way it's hard to answer how many painters are there in Acadiana. So also these organizations have opportunities that come through. And right now they have a listserv where they push it out, which is great. They put it out on their socials, but the artists have to then go be searching and make sure it doesn't fall beneath the email that this is spam email. They have to sort of do the work to find what's in that list. So for an organization, you get a profile, same thing. It's all SEO optimized. Every word in your bio, or your description rather, is indexed. And then you can post opportunities. I didn't mention this for artists, but artists can post opportunities too. Like if you're looking for a band member, you can say like, I'm looking for a drummer, and post that as well. And you have the option to post it just locally in your city, for example, or you can post it across the state. So then that opportunity shows up in every directory across the state, or you can post it across the network, which means you'd show up in Connecticut and Albania, because we're in 12 cities right now. So you have your opportunity to show up in those places. So the idea is just, why aren't we all just sharing the same sort of circuitry to get these resources out there? Because everywhere has the same exact problem in terms of trying to map and understand what's happening in a cultural ecosystem. So we designed it so it's basically Google comes through and crawls a website, and we've made it, there's a page that's kind of hidden on our site. I can show you, but it has every artist that's signed up, and then Google just goes and crawls every page and indexes every word. So it works on Google too. No, not yet. We're working with the LDOA, who's help putting on this. The Arts Council of Baton Rouge is a partner of ours. So we've seen, sort of depending on the structure, it all kind of works. Okay, and then cultural consumers. So the idea, as I mentioned earlier, for an artist for the theory that we have as culturalists is that the next generation of tourists is gonna know what they want to find. So they've grown up where in a way that creativity is much more in the forefront of what they're consuming from social media and other sort of outlets. But the next generation of people who are traveling to cities is going to know that they want to see just a spoken word artist, or they want to see pottery, or they want to see dance. And so we want them to be able to arrive to a city, find those people, and find their events and connect with them. So for a cultural consumer, it's kind of like Craigslist, where we want to make it easy for someone to just pop in and find what they want to find. And we've got plans for allowing a tourist to then save artists that they find. So and they can share that list out. So they could say, these are my favorite artists in New Orleans. And it could be a list of 50 artists that they've met and saved from their trip to New Orleans. And then they go to Acadiana and they do the same thing. And then they have this resource that is all the artists that they've connected with locally. Because right now they might follow on Instagram, which still can happen. That's great. But you're likely to be sort of pushed down the feed, and you're sort of stuck behind algorithms in certain ways. And for someone to arrive to a city and want to reconnect with the artists that they've met last time, Instagram makes that hard. Okay, and then this part is less sexy, but is helpful for arts councils, is that we just provide data. So like, who are the artists? What is the breakdown of age, gender, location, gender pronouns? Who are they, and what are the demographic information? Same thing with arts organizations. How many visual arts organizations versus performing? Same thing with opportunities and resources. So like I mentioned earlier, how many mental health resources are shared across the network? Is it enough? So sort of allowing that analysis to happen. Once you understand what's happening at the local level, you can zoom out to a certain region, zoom out to the state level. We want to help map all that. And then here's some emergency infrastructure stuff. So I think this is something that we're working on in combination with city governments, is if an artist signs up, like there's a big problem in New Orleans specifically, not sure if it happens here, where there's a bunch of busking musicians on Royal Street, and they get swept out all the time because of like filming for movies, or for sort of the city just has to shut it down for a weekend. And there's a bunch of tension between those musicians and the city as a result of that sort of unannounced disruption in income. And so there's a bunch of historic tension between artists and city government for a whole bunch of reasons, largely based, in racist practices. But for the most part, the city government is trying to make amends with these musicians who earn money that way. So the idea is, if an artist moves to a city, whether they want a profile or not, they should sign up for Culturalist and then get information about that's happening in the city. So they can say, the city can send a message out to all the busking musicians who've checked that on their profile, or on the back end if they don't have a public profile. And then all those musicians will get notified, hey, Royal Street shut down for this weekend. And then they won't show up angry with their stuff. And then that same communication line goes out for emergencies. So if a hurricane comes through, you can blast a message out to all the musicians, all the artists, saying, here's what we're doing as a city, here's the evacuation points. There just isn't enough social services to support arguably the most economy of New Orleans and other cultural cities. And that's what we're trying to work on. And then this is the last slide before the demo. We're working on an artist dashboard. So the idea is we want to make it easy. So if you find a grant, you can save it, you can integrate it with your calendar, and then you can get a reminder email or text, because it integrates with your calendar, to say, hey, this grant's due in 2 weeks. right? So you want to link your calendar to the grants you're applying for. We want to show you also all the alerts coming from city councils, from city government, from arts councils, from the organizations that you're part of, to help you sort of understand what's going on. We also want to show you your social following. So if you're doing a bunch of posts on Instagram, how many followers did you increase in a certain week based on stuff you did? So we want to provide those kind of tools so an artist can go to their dashboard and just sort of get resources. And there's a whole bunch we can do here, but this is where we want to listen to what artists need. We've heard from artists they need help with taxes, but we want to build a free resource that artists can use to sort of accomplish their what they need to accomplish. Yeah, Luke. So the city government, let's say it's, you know, Baton Rouge city government, they would post a message and then they'd select which mediums they want or genres they want that message to go to, or if it's just all artists, and then it would show up on the dashboard. This is something that that we're building right now, so it's not yet live. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Culturalist. Mm-hmm. Great question. Yes. Okay. Great. Love that. So the backstory on our timeline. I tried to find it. I had this idea in 2015, 2016. Tried to find a technical co-founder because I didn't know how to code. That took some time. Ended up finding somebody who was super into the idea, and then they bailed because they had a child, which makes sense. We were making no money at the time. And so I then learned how to code, which took me about a year. And then I was broke at this point, worked at GE for a bit of time to figure out how to actually build technology that scales. Quit GE in 2018 and a half, and then rebuilt it, given what I had just learned about building technical stuff. And then we launched sort of formally in New Orleans in just before the pandemic, kind of like 2020. And then we were just in New Orleans for probably 4 months. And then at the end, in August of 2020, we did a partnership with the Louisiana Division of the Arts, LDOA. And then they bought a license. We found it took us a while to find our model. Like, how do we become sustainable? And so we found a model where we work with an arts council and they pay us a small fee. Rather than building their own technology, they pay us a fee, and then they are our partner and they get access to a dashboard. So we did the partnership with the state in August of 2020. Didn't even launch until this past summer. Took us a while to sort of figure things out. This is a long-winded answer. So now the first 9 was one relationship, right, with the state of Louisiana, and then each of the 9 arts councils we then formed relationships with and launched in each city in July. We launched in Connecticut 2 weeks ago, and we launched in Albania probably 2 months ago. And then we purposely have done no more outreach because we had to sort of get our bearings around, like, how's this going? What bugs should we fix? What are we hearing from people? And so we're now, that's why we did the rebrand, is to sort of like get a new look. We fixed a bunch of bugs on the site, and now we're going to start to expand. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm going to give you the answer where we stand right now on that, and then where we want to get to. The answer right now is we work with an arts organization, usually the Arts Council. In Albania, it's different, but we work with the Arts Council, and we are the tech partner. So we charge the Arts Council a fee that ranges from $1,000 a year to right now, I think our highest price is like, just shy of 10K a year, depending on the size of the city. So that's our model. Is we work with the artists pay nothing, arts organizations in each region pay nothing, but the Arts Council, who is sort of by design, good or bad, the federal sort of funding comes down to the individual Arts Council level. That's who we work with. So for the artist, there's no cost, and there will never be a cost. Yeah. 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 No. Okay. Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Reasonably. Yes. That's a the question I've sort of been asking for the last 7 years. I started the project by launching this um, survey, like a Google survey, based on an organization called Sweet Home New Orleans that had sort of been really helpful to a bunch of Black Mexican Indians and the Black cultural community in New Orleans for some time, and then that organization had shut down because they hadn't been funded. Why hadn't they been funded? A bunch of questions there, but there was an organization that ran this survey to find the income levels for artists. So those numbers I told you in the beginning of this is how much artists make in New Orleans versus the tourism money. I took that and I sent out a survey, just blasted it out and was like, hey, artists, what do you think? Is this fair? And then I received an email from a group of 10 tradition bearers and culture bearers in New Orleans asking for a meeting at a coffee shop. And I missed the first meeting like a dummy. And then came to the second meeting and was basically just like, they were like, you don't know what you're doing. And we've been doing this work for generations. And you come with your tech and you think that you're going to help. And this whole thing is a problem. And in that moment, I first got like defensive and hot and like trying to defend myself, and then was able to like calm down and check myself, and then just listened. And then those people have become advisors. So over the past several years, it's taken a long time to get this going, and we're still in the very, very beginning. I met with Chief Shaka Zulu yesterday, and he's an advisor of ours. So the whole thing that resonates right now is the economics of this system are so remarkably, like, preposterously ridiculous. So I think the idea of centralizing information so that we can make some changes to those numbers, to the economics, that's resonating. And I think that it will continue to take time to build the trust. And that's why, like, I think of this infrastructure sort of like a bridge or a road, where it's like, this should just exist, and it's going to take time to build it up. And there's no quick fix to this institutional racism that exists in cultural economies. But the first step is centralizing information so that there can't be gatekeepers who then block who gets certain gigs or who gets certain grants, which has been happening for generations, which is why there's no trust. So the idea of just, I get out of the way, and this is just infrastructure that centralizes the information so that anyone can get to it, is making sense to people, to those group of advisors and their communities as well. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, thank you for the questions. Okay, so at this point, I want to show you what I've been talking about. So the website right now, again, we're doing this rebrand before we start to grow. So you're going to see the old landing page, which is pretty simple. But here are the communities that we're in: Connecticut, Louisiana, and Albania. So this will change when we do this rebrand, but you can zoom in and let's check out. I think Baton Rouge is still building, so we'll check out New Orleans. Yeah, here we go. So we start with these high-level categories, and we design these symbols in partnership with a local graphic designer who's from New Orleans to basically make it so that a tourist could be at a coffee shop and they could see a pin and they could be like, oh, the baristas, oh, you do music, or you're a culture bearer, and it could start the conversation. So there's some more offline discovery that can happen just by these little sort of universal symbols. So from here, you can just start to discover. We wanted to make it really, really simple. So you can see the artist's name, what medium they're in, and you can just scroll and you can find this way by just seeing sort of what catches you. Yeah, Nicole, go ahead. Kelsey, go ahead. Right now, it's just alphabetical. Well, so we're changing that. It's alphabetical right now just because but we're doing in the next update, which should come the next end of this month, it's who's recently joined. You can filter by different things. So who's recently joined. Yeah. I'll show you that in 1 second. So right now, the first step is working with the artists. So getting artists on board and describe, like I'm doing lots of, our team is a team of 3, and we're doing lots of these kind of conversations, and also working with arts councils who then are also promoting it themselves. So Luke will help with the promotion in Baton Rouge. There's people at each arts council that are then pointing their artists to this directory. So the first step is get the artists, build trust with the artists, and provide value there before we then move to the second step of this many-year process of providing value to the cultural consumer. And I want to get to that at the very end of this presentation, but that we haven't really started that process yet, but we're going to. Yeah. Okay, so I want to answer. I want to show Kelsey sort of what I was talking about. For the drill down, but you can look this way, right? And then, or you could say, let me see performing artists. And then this is only the performing artists in New Orleans. And you can scroll down and find, you can look at each card this way and say, okay, Amanda G does comedy, MC, storyteller, Amber is a burlesque dancer, right? So you can sort of visually see it that way, or you can further drill down and say, let me see dance and spoken word. So you can get really, really granular to what you want to find. And you can even further get more granular and say, I want to see a zip code, this race or ethnicity, these gender pronouns, or this age. So you can get down to very, very specifically what you want to find. So let's show you what a profile looks like. We do visual. And let's do painting. Let's see what we got. I think. So we're now in painting, and then let me show you. I'll show you Ruth's profile, I guess. Here we go. Okay, so we wanted to make it pop in terms of just like there's a main image that's really, really big. It's depending on what the artist chooses, right? So Ruth's chosen this painting. You know, some photos look better than others, obviously. Here's Ruth's profile. Every one of these words is SEO optimized. And then here's the gallery of work. This all is mobily friendly, so you can swipe, you can, it scales really well. And then Ruth's URL is just culturalist.com/her username, and there can be no other person on the platform with that same username. So in Albania, it's just like Instagram that way, where it's only for Ruth. And now I'm going to show you I'll show you Chief Shaka's profile, and then I'll Google his name to show you how the SEO optimization works. So we're doing a big seminar with a bunch of Black Mexican Indians next month, because our goal is to sort of help map and provide resources in terms of an online presence if they want it. So here's Chief Shaka Zulu's profile. You can contact him directly right here. I didn't show you the support button on Ruth's profile, but Ruth's linked her Venmo, so you can support Ruth. But now I'm going to Google Chief Shaka Zulu, and you'll see so here's his website, and the third result is his culturals page. So for all these artists, let's try Ruth. It really depends on, it takes like about a week and a half for Google to index the site. Let's try Ruth Owens. So I don't think Ruth's on there. Jade Myers. And it's going to be nope, not on the first page of that one. So depending on when these folks join is how long it takes to index. Let's try Nicola Sarge. Well, so there's a couple. Yeah, I'm just choosing ones that aren't working right now. So yeah, just did this demo the other day, and like all of them. So, but I guess so it works, and then the point of it is that on the actual, I can show you. So it's through this page that Google scrolls and indexes each artist. So you can click on Acadiana. So Google's bots are just constantly scrolling sites looking for links. So this doesn't look pretty, because the whole purpose of this page is just that each of these pages are then being indexed, so they show up as. So yeah, and then let me show you the opportunities section. So here's what is the real value for the artist, I think. You can find artists that way. Same thing with organizations. You can say, show me all the visual arts organizations. Same thing. And then same thing for opportunities. So this is where we think there's lots of value for the artists looking for opportunities. So you can say, I'm in opportunities now. I haven't filtered down. And let me see grants, leaf aid, residencies. And then we're further, because we also know some opportunities are only, this is only for Black female painters or, Homa Nation artists. So we're building more filters there, so you can really get granular. And then let's click on this one here. So here's this residency. describes the opportunity, and then it shows it's posted by Studio in the Woods. So they were the one that posted the opportunity, and they chose, I guess, local. And I'll show you when we pop between cities. It's really simple to pop between cities. So you just go up here, and let's go to Hartford. So here's all the artists in Hartford. We just fixed this issue, why issues by profiles were loading slowly, so that the next update will fix that too. But then you go to opportunities here. There's some opportunities that are only for Connecticut artists, right? So the Arts Council in Connecticut, I guess, posted this, and when they posted it, they chose, this is posted by the Greater Hartford Arts Council. This is just for Connecticut artists, as opposed to, seeing, the Studio in the Woods posted this across the network. So this is now showing up for Connecticut artists. So depending on, where each organization chose, it gets posted. Yeah, that would just Connecticut one. And then these same things show up in Albania. If you go over to Albania, so I've got 7 minutes left, and I want to describe just very briefly sort of where we want to get with this. There's more categories in Albania because they requested like health and wellness folks there. So you can see here there's some opportunities that are just for Albania or ones that are global. So just really quickly, I spoke in the beginning about how equitable economics of culture. The first step we think, this is the theory behind culture, is centralizing information to move creates more equity. That's the first step. The second step we think in terms of change is thinking about what we as a cultural community can get. And I think the theory is artists are actually making people are making culture. People coming to the city want to find the deepest, most authentic part of that city. And it's the artists in those cities making that stuff. Those artists have events, backyard poetry readings, gallery visits. All these events are happening in cities, but they're hard to find unless you follow the artists on Instagram, the artists, they're posted. But the cultural consumer to access it from Ohio. I'm not going to find the backyard poetry even if I really want to see it. So why can't we leverage events and charge a cultural consumer? They want to pay for it. Charge them $10 for access to all of it. So if you were to get 1% of the tourist spend dollars on a whole bunch of things to think through, naming, how this all works, but 1% of tourists spend $10 to get access to a new tab that says events, that's just artists posting their events in one place, would raise $2 million of new money they can funnel. That's just 1%. So the theory is that people So like, where? Yeah, we've been. I've been in. Where we want to get to is restaurant. Where we want to get to is that there is so much tools. Part we've been in is just not to be stuff. No, I think Instagram is so beautiful in how you it's so hard to they just look both. And I knew that was it's like mine is stunning. Yeah, stunning through like I was watching some guy that gets tricked by somebody serving ice cream on him. It's like 10 minutes gone. And I'm like, ah, you know. Yeah, I think we're very close to getting. You know what it looks like to be. Yeah. Speed partners. And like those that are set up. We want to work with the organization, get funding, right? This is infrastructure. We want to be working with the organization, get funding from it's not sexist religion, but it's used for both sides. They need better technology. Yeah.
To me, what catches my eye out of a lot of things that is hard for artists to find, Connecticut and like East, I know that they maybe better than all things. So their artists are better at finding their. I know that
Yes. There's soul. I knew. You knew it. Stop. Dude, that's amazing. Yes, so strong. Yes, I was an attendee at their dance party, and then was watching the visuals of like. I think that's
so we registered in here in the morning.
So, but the thing I did mention is we don't care if artists. This is kind of we don't care if an artist wants a profile or not. If an artist wants to link to their personal website or to their Spotify, or that's fine. The whole goal is to centralize the information so that you can find all the artists. You know, some artists are not going to want to create a profile. So that's the first thing. Is that we're not opinionated about how much time is spent on profile. We don't care. That's the whole thing we're trying to set, disrupt. Rather. So to answer your question, so the dance party I was just talking about with Luke has a profile, and this is something that we're improving on the next update. But they've got a members section, and then it just is each artist is a member that's selected. And if you click on this is Soul's profile, so you know Soul linked to all of her. She got a Bandcamp, Instagram, all of her stuff is linked here. She got a song. Here's Soul's gallery. Day, excuse me. I think what you do is you tell all the artists this is a resource, and then they would sign up. And then when you make your organization profile, there's a members tab, just type in their name, that's the part of my group, and then they would show up underneath that in that members section here. Yeah, we had other organizations that we had one organization set up 30 profiles. They got the person's email, knowing they never checked it. For the summit,